George, Grand Rising. How are you?
Rising, Adam. I'm good. How are you doing? I think we're both a little rattled.
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, I am great. I am great.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
everything is really great.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I laugh each time that you and I talk often. Most of the time it's on camera. Sometimes it's not. And I love when you say, well, we can turn the camera on and maybe we'll use this, maybe we won't. I have no concerns that this will be usable. It just makes me
Yeah,
laugh. I appreciate you. You keep me a little less serious, which is helpful. Sometime we'll
yeah,
do a sometime we'll do an episode where it's just funny stuff, and then we can laugh, and uh, maybe I'll seem a little more human
yeah,
instead of being so serious all the time.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it's kind of hard, you know, having a job like you do and most people do. Like it kind of forces you to be a little bit more serious than you want to be. Like people don't like joking around too much at work. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
well, it's great that you bring that up because I do joke around a fair amount, at work, but then for me, or at least where I'm at, I I'm mindful to not like drift so far into me joking around that I feel like I'm being just real surface level, like I'm not being me. And so I think maybe that's the position, if you will, of like where I kind of get caught up because after a bit you're like, oh, what are we even talking about? So you know, it's a good thing to think about, though. I mean, yeah, I tend to. This is kind of a topic I even wanted to bring up to you too, but so I tend to be pretty, I'm fairly serious, but I try to joke around a fair amount. But if something like sort of happens where there's a trigger that I'm working through, or shadow work, which is shadow work is something I wanted to bring up today and get your kind of take on it. Um, I tend to not devolve, but I change into that gear of just being very, very serious and just trying to get something done. And that brings in stress and all other kinds of things. Um, and as you've probably seen over however many episodes we've done now, this might be 43. I don't have a great poker face, which means I have none. So you could, and you already can tell anyway, most of the time, as can my wife and
Yeah.
anyone else who knows me for a hot minute. Um, So, how do you feel like that has changed for you? Not working currently, and it's been what? It's been over a year, right? Or has it been longer? How long has it been?
It's it was a year in March, so yeah,
Okay.
about a year and a half now. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Um,
yeah. So I was always having fun at work and everything, but obviously being a professional in IT and everything, it just you want to joke around with the people you're helping because they're having a bad day if they're seeing you. so, so that allowed me, I guess, to have more fun, whereas other jobs may not have. Um, so there's always some you can do, but at the end of the day, there's corporate wants to be a certain way, right? They'll allow the funniness as long as the bottom line's being met, and sometimes they don't.
right.
That's how it is.
Within within boundaries, right? It's always
Yeah,
within.
and really just since not working, it's. I mean, I don't know. You still in life depending who you deal with, you have to meter out your funniness because some people are just going to lose it. But it's always a balance of
I
when it
agree.
needs to be. But I mean, I was already for the past few years, even while I was working, just already had the I don't care attitude what anyone thinks because we should all be ourselves. And yeah, we have a job to do and we have a business to run or whatever. But I always, at least in my business, I always wanted people to have fun.
I agree.
Get
Yeah,
the job done, but have fun.
yeah. It's easier to have fun, I think, when you're not too stressed, or like even with whether it's someone you report to, supervisor or manager, or just in general, like it's fun until something really, again, I'm on this word, it really triggers you, or there's shadow work, and I'll define what I mean by that in a little bit. But some of you watching may already kind of know where I'm headed with this, but um, when you have a certain level of stress, you kind of don't want to you don't want to have fun for a while. Like you kind of want to be mad and you want to be, you sort of want to sit in it. And so that's hard to keep lighthearted about it. Question for you. So being a year and a half or a little bit more now, not working, aside from probably, yes, it's less stress and everything else potentially, but what do you feel like are like a top three things that have really improved or maybe stayed the same that surprised you? Do you feel more lighthearted in general, or is it easier to convey, love throughout? Do you feel the same person as you were then? Have you changed? I know that's a loaded question because we all change, but I mean, what do you think are like some top things that you feel about that? What's changed or what hasn't?
So I'm going to adjust the question again because my connection kind of went out for a second. So if you don't mind repeating.
No, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Okay.
When you're in a work environment and you were running a business, so it might be it might have been really really stressful.
Mhm.
So how do you feel that has changed in the year and a half since you haven't been working? From my purview looking in, I was laid off and was taking time, I think 4 months or something like that. And like there were a lot of serious things I did, but everything just felt very much more lighthearted. Everything for me, I kind of was able to chart my own course, if you will. And so I'm just trying to expand upon that for the length of time that you've had. Not that you don't have stresses or worries in life, you still have to do things, but have things changed in ways you had expected, or have there things that you thought would get better that are staying the same? Like, what do you think for you, or is it just hit a different level? I'm just curious as to kind of your journey in that.
I guess I would say for me, things have gotten more relaxed. Maybe for lack of a better term, my faith has grown even larger and my worries have gone less. Like, regardless of what pops up, my worries are less from a real, I guess, triggerable, if that's a word, way to look at things. I truly, really don't worry about anything. And it's not like anything bad or serious has come up during that time. It, I hate to say this, but it really feels like I'm just coasting down the hill, on autopilot at this point, like
How steep
I,
is that hill? Is it like this, or is it just sort of like a bunny
it's a fun
slope?
one. It's a fun, like a slide. It's like we're just going wee down the slide and it's fun. I don't, yeah, I can't lie and say it's been rough for me or anything, or it's been fun. It truly has been fun, and all it does is make me double down on telling everyone that they need to get to a point, even kind of like in a protest form of, buy a lot less, fight your addictions, like, whether it's food, alcohol, whatever, the things that we waste time and money on, right? Like we've all wasted time and money on a lot of things that weren't beneficial to us, but do the things you enjoy, paint more, make music, build, whatever it is that you like to do. I feel that people should take, maybe it's time to take work less serious. I mean, I truly envision a world where working is going to be optional. Like, I think it's going to be your choice. Like, do you want to just sit and fish every day for like a year? Then you can do that. If you want to build something or a community or whatever you want to do, you can. But um, I want everyone to experience this, and I want to experience it on an even deeper level. Like we still have to deal with money, right? Like I still have to go and pay for things with money, and I don't see that as a system going forward that's viable at all.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of people are not even at the step of doing their shadow work or letting go of their triggers. I mean, you and I both know the triggers definitely are. They're there so that we can see what's wrong. I mean, I always come back to the Michael Jackson song, The Man in the Mirror. And whenever I see someone, attacking somebody else or saying something, judging somebody, I'm like, well, you need to look in the mirror. Like, and no one wants to hear that. And I may not tell somebody that, or I may just say it online because people take it easier or whatever. Or they could just and then disappear.
That's right. That's right.
But that's the reality. I mean, the reality is what's out there is what you need. I mean, everything that makes you angry, But instead, everyone's like, well, you have to respect my triggers and not activate them. And they don't understand that's not how it works. That's not why they're there. I mean, there was a guy the other day. I know I'm talking a lot, but there was a guy the other day
Good.
that
You
posted.
don't. Let me pause you for a moment, and you go back to talking. I always look forward. I look forward to all of our conversations, with whoever's on. But I really like when it's the two of us because it's not that you get to talk more, but you're drawn out to talk more. Like with three people, it's a little much. You have to try to pick your spots. Even
Mm,
myself. So I
yeah.
love when you're pushed a little bit to talk more.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna
and
stay here comfortable with it, but
I like letting the guests, have all that time too, because we talk a lot, and it's good for us to be silent, as
I
you know.
agree. I
But
Yeah.
what I was saying is, there was a guy that posted the other day asking, I guess he was asking WR Shock if we're all fragments of Source, Prime Creator, and we are here experiencing everything, then why is anything viewed as bad, or why are some of these things necessary, so to speak? I may be paraphrasing, not exactly, but anyway, the first thing that popped in my mind was, well, because I think they were really pointing towards karma is what they were asking about, and I said, well, without karma, you don't experience the reason why you need to be kind, compassionate, why you have to forgive. I said there's a whole lot of things that are not experienced if karma doesn't exist. If you don't walk on, I mean, this is going to be controversial, but people are going to learn one day that what I fully believe, that I was probably a villain at one point. I might have been a dictator. I might have been a mass murderer, a serial killer in another life. Like, you don't know, you don't know
You
what
don't.
parts you experienced, right?
Right.
And I also could have been a benevolent king or something, right? I could have been a good leader. I mean, who knows all the different things that, how many lives we had, each of us, and what we did, and those are all things to experience. So I keep telling people you have to look beyond good and evil, but people are so triggered about the bad things that happen. Yeah, we don't want to see things happen that we deem bad, right? And I'm not condoning to go out and do the bad things, because really the whole point is to, maybe start at the bottom, but you got to move up. You've got to experience all the things, and maybe in this life you're not experiencing anything bad, or you're doing nothing but good, but it's all part of it.
I think you're I think you're totally onto something. I'll unpack a couple things. So, "Man in the Mirror," I have played that song more, and sometimes for my wife, and then she realizes why I'm playing it. She's like, "Oh, can we let's just go watch our show. Let's do something." I know what you're doing, Adam. I know what you're doing. But yeah, man in the mirror, and having things that are internal that you're working through, and how that gets reflected outwards. And I even think of I'm reading a book right now that's um, a woman's experience and her kind of evolution since then of her near death experience, which is now 30, 40 years ago. And she brought up the idea about, how can there be bad in the world if God exists and is in control of
Their
everything.
kids with cancer, that's the one they always bring up.
Right. And so, and I know this is controversial for some, but I feel compelled to want to talk about it. Not saying that I have the answer to it, but it makes sense to me that if the world is headed in a direction with people either asleep or accepting things, maybe there are more natural disasters, or maybe it allows for people to have the compelled feeling to want to create certain things. I mean, we can go into all avenues, but I also think that in the aftermath of something, um, something happening to a child, or an earthquake or a hurricane or something like that, what is the human response? Or an attack on some people by some other people? Is the response with force meets force, and more destruction because of that? Well, is that a mirror reflection? And does that mean we're all supposed to just quit and just surrender to the enemy? That's not what I mean. But your response to that, how you mirror what that is within you, I think that on a grander scale, that could be shadow work. help me define what you mean or I mean by shadow work and triggers. I'll give you mine too, but I'd
Yeah.
like to hear yours.
Well, my understanding on the shadow work has always been the deep, dark things that we all bury from childhood on up. So the things that you don't even know, why maybe the dishes in the sink bother you. This is one of my cats, Tina.
I love,
She's got my
I love the cat sighting. She should stay. Tina, stay.
yeah.
Child
So
dog.
yeah, it's all the things that you don't that maybe they're why you're being triggered. You don't know that or remember the past trauma that you've had, or also it could be trauma that was passed down through the bloodline, through the DNA, because we know that all holds information. So maybe a great grandfather that was molested or something had that trauma, was never processed, and now it just gets passed down through generations. So
Which is in your DNA, right? I mean,
yeah,
just to segue, and I want to come back to you. Like, there is a school of thought, if I can say it that way, that we all have past lives. Others may look at it to say it's actually not your past life, you as who you are, but everything that has been genetically occurred has been passed down through your DNA, which is why you remember it. So either way,
yeah.
I'm not here to
Yeah,
debate.
it could go
Right.
either way, and then really, it's in the end, it's still affecting you regardless of how it is. And then there's people too that say, well, it's not past lives; it's all simultaneous, timelines. But regardless, it's three different concepts, and they all dump their crap onto you the same way. So regardless,
That's right. And
I
I'll
mean, it's like if you're playing multiple characters in a video game, right? And something's happened to this one here and that one. I guess the closest to that would be a game that some people understand, or like the real-time strategy games like StarCraft and Warcraft. Those where you're commanding all the little soldiers, right? And this little
Yep.
guy's over here, something's happened to him, and this one over there. So if you look at it that way, and you look at your soul being somewhere else, and you're controlling all the bits, which why couldn't you, right? I mean,
Why couldn't you?
I see a lot of things in video games as mirrors to how maybe the whole system really works sometimes, because I just things jump out at me from that avenue, because I played since I was a kid, and I'm before I didn't see it, and now sometimes I see it, and I go back and play old games. I'm like, oh, there was some disclosure here, or here's a bit of nugget of truth of what I believe is going on, and it's just amazing the things that are in our face that we weren't paying attention to, movies, music, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it's yeah, it's all very interesting, but yeah, and when you start digging deep and trying to figure out, okay, well, why does this bother me? Um, that's doing the shadow work. That's figuring out why, and then when you realize it, some people have to go to therapy and or read books and understand, how our psyche works and all that. But once you do that work, then you're like, oh, and then when you get triggered again, you're like, man, I'm an idiot. And when I was doing some of that, I was like putting it on me. I was like, man, I'm such a dumbass. Why? I know why this is happening, and why do I keep falling for it? But you have to just give yourself grace too. But you need to keep working on it. Unless you want to go the other way.
I think I think you're very accurate in that.
And you know what? It's harder too. Like it's harder once you know, because now you know,
Now
and now
you
you know
can't
it's all your. Now it's all you. It's nobody
be,
else's fault. It's all you now.
because you're now, I feel, at least for me, now you're complicit. Now you're not just like, I don't, you're, if you're aware of it
You're the
enough,
villain, so to speak. You find out
and
you're the villain.
and it's made more interesting. And this is why I'm smiling so much during this, because I mean, at this point I can only smile at like my my triggers and shadow work, especially recently, because I asked for it. And how did I ask for it? Well, I asked it in prayer to God, to Source, to Prime Creator, saying, I'm ready. I'm open to receive. Like, of course, in that same thread, I'm asking about, whatever abundance looks like, bring it on. I'm ready. I'll go as fast as you want me to. Sometimes I
Abundance of
ask to
shadow
go.
work, even.
Sometimes I dare say I ask to go faster than even maybe I can. I ask to go as fast as possible for me, knowing that God knows how fast I can go. And be careful what you wish for, because I feel like,
or be ready to receive.
well, I feel like sources are saying, okay, because in parts of that then are triggers that even, we don't realize are either still there to a certain extent or it's just amped up. And I could give you a myriad of different examples, especially over the last couple of days, even for me. But I say that a lot of like the last couple of weeks, it's been this, or last couple of days. I'm recognizing now it's beyond that. It's just this moment in time. You talk about this moment in time, and everything can just be right in this moment across all across all lifetimes or all existence. Like, yes, this is the only moment that matters because there is no future or past. This is just the cutting edge, if you will, of the next moment and the next moment and the one after that. So the triggers in the shadow work that I now find myself in are exactly what you're saying. Um, Something will happen and I'll feel more triggered than I'd prefer to be. But then I also remind myself, you asked for this. You did say, and you made the decision, and you didn't. Certainly not at this point do I expect everything to be perfectly rosy. And frankly, the parts that are harder and that are more difficult, that I'd, if I'm not thinking about it, I would like to be past. You're not past it. Trying to think of a metaphor, like you're climbing this mountain, you don't really know where the top is, and maybe that's the point. There really isn't a top or a bottom. It's just whatever part of the experience that you're in is just what it is.
I like to think of it more of a tunnel going through a hill or a mountain, because that truly, you really don't know how many twists and turns and if there's a where it's going to open up and get out of it. Like you're stuck in there once you asked for it or once you fell into it.
That's right. And you can call it, a tunnel or a river or anything like that. I
Yeah.
mean, the river is going to be led to the ocean. It's going to get there some way, shape, or form. You could get dammed up for a while and off in an eddy somewhere, or you can go with the flow and stay in the middle. Either way is not necessarily going to be easy or hard. It's just going to be is what it is. Um, I've really been grateful for the observer role that I've been able to take in my life, even when I'm in it. And I've had, you know, conversations very recently where I'm even, in a conversation knowing that I'm not um, handling this my best. And I even did the unthinkable, George. I actually said, I just need some time to think about this, which is not typical for me. Which could be a breaking of a loop to be like, I gotta sit with this a little bit. I might need to vent about it. I might need to do some other things that I'd, like to pretend I'm past. But if I'm
I
talking,
want to stop on that right there for a sec, because you just having the clarity to say, I'm going to take some time right now. Like people think the machine's going to break if the gears turn off, if it stops. So I know you can just hit the on button again and get back on the crazy ride. Just
that's right.
you can pause.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a question that you ask. I forget exactly how you frame it, but the way you've asked this in the past has been really helpful for me. Where you say something effective, okay, well then what? Okay, well if that happens, well then what? Like, what's the? It's not what's the big deal, because life is hard. We all chose to come to Earth for a really hard and beautiful ride, and in the absence of it being hard and yet beautiful, we wouldn't progress the way that we do. But I'll put it in more 3D terms. Like, okay, so what if you lose your job? So what if I have a bad day at work and I've got to go find employment somewhere else? Is that really the end of the world? No, it might be the end of that day not going so well, not to my liking, or that month, or whatever. Um, but if you start to sort of just do the math, so to speak, as to is anything really that of a big deal? And that's not meaning be lazy and just not do anything. It just means just take it one step at a time. Like um, that's I recognize for those listening that is harder when you're like, well, I have to pay bills, Adam, and I got to make ends meet, and like stuff's not going to happen. I agree that there's like some minimal, survival things that need to occur, but outside of that, and even with that, as hard as it is to maybe accept, and this might trigger some people, but does any of that really matter in this moment of you fretting about it? Or are you going to pick yourself up and decide what the next, move is? Um, I going back to asking for all of it. I have asked for it. I've asked for it a lot. I mean, I go to bed in meditation and prayer, and I wake up in it, and I'm grateful for everything. And I do see very much that the more I am grateful, the more that stops me taking it on so heavily to my heart, as opposed to
I say something about what you're doing there because I think I don't want to gloss over the point or pass it without bringing this up because I feel it's very important to say, a lot of people have ideas of what being masculine is and what being a man is. And, if someone does something, oh, I'm going to go beat them up or I'm going to go kill them or I'm going to do this and that. Right. And that's uncontrolled masculinity is the way I see it. And real masculinity and being a real man is to say, I know I'm not perfect and I know I need to do work and throw it all at me so I can figure it out and do the work. Um, and that, I think people just need to stop and think about that, because I see there's a lot of fighting on the internet, right? There's a lot of left versus right. And I'm detached from picking a side because I know we're all on the same side deep down if you look at it. But people are looking at things surface level. So everyone's like, oh, we got to go kill them or we got to do this to them. And everything is just things not from kindness, right? Not from, and I know we'll get flagged for this, but saying, not being from the light, not, because people, there's this whole view that, oh, well, love and light, blah, blah, blah. And, don't do anything bad to anybody. And it's like, okay, I'm not going that far either, but I'm saying, I always tell people, look, your hatred and your fear and your anger is going to kill you. It's going to do more to you than it does to them. And you can go and slaughter their whole bloodline, whatever. It's not going to do anything for you. At the end of the day, it's really not going to do anything good for you. So yeah, asking for being able to do the work and rise above that to me is true masculinity. And I'll go to my grave saying that till, forever.
I want to ask if we can take our pause right now, just hearing that, because I had a full body chill from that, and I want to frame this to say everyone has a role to play. That doesn't dismiss what is evil or good. It's to say love and forgiveness for yourself and others and gratitude are a trifecta that will lead us forward. So let's all just take a moment, eyes open or closed, and just sit with that for a moment. Thank you, George. I'm very grateful that you brought that up. And for some of you who wonder what the pause is for, a couple episodes back, I can't remember, George, or maybe we weren't even recording. You're like, I think we need to do that pause sometime, throughout an episode, or maybe just for a moment of clarity or an aha moment, just to take a little time to let that settle in. Um, you talk about bloodlines, and there's some who feel like there's 13 bloodlines that are the bad or whatever, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but if that's a role to be played, so that we understand, how can you have light without dark? Um, if you meet that with love, knowing that this isn't the end, knowing that our souls, as long as we choose to be, are safe and not in this place, safe elsewhere, that we're connected to it at all times, unless we choose to disconnect that. Um, meeting meeting darkness with light, so meeting hatred with love, however that looks like, and as hard as that might be for people to hear, but I'm ready to say it, and I I think that is a huge thing. Imagine a dream that any of us have had, and I remember one a little while ago where there was this dark thing, some being. I couldn't tell the features of it. I mean, I think I told you about this, but it was a very tall being, seemed like double my height or maybe more. And at some point in time, I just stopped running. I just turned and I said some words that I have no idea where it came from. It was some like saying that I did. And I put my hand up like this and like gathered light from wherever, the ether, and then I turned and I slammed it into the ground, and that light went throughout, like everywhere I was standing on, and it went right to the bean, and the bean fell over. Now you could say, well, you were fighting that, Adam. I guess maybe I was, but was that light not love? Was that maybe not forgiveness? Maybe that's the shadow within me, for all I know.
Yeah.
And I chose to just meet that with light, in a rather dramatic way. But I think that's something to think about. Um,
Yeah. And the thing that maybe people don't understand is that uh, okay, there's this great evil in the world, right? And you're going to go and you're going to vanquish it and do all that. And we go to our base instinct of, well, the way to vanquish it is to go destroy it, kill it, burn it with fire, whatever it is, the solution, right? Nukes, whatever it is. But they don't stop to think that they're going to lose themselves in it. And then aren't they becoming that what they're fighting? So this person goes and kills 1,000 people, and then you're like, well, you got to go stop them. And then they have an army and you kill all of them, and maybe it was 500, and say, okay, well, how is the difference between you and them just 500, or because you think you were doing it because
right.
you're righteous? Like,
You're
is there
justified.
another way? And taking the easy route or the quick route and not thinking about it, not pausing to figure out what should happen. I think that's where the true test is, or I know that's what we're supposed to be doing. Like, if you just succumb to every trigger and go on your base animal instinct, then why should you be trusted with any higher kind of power, right? Like, we keep hearing that, we'll be able to teleport, we'll be able to communicate telepathically, we'll be able to fly, we'll be able to do all these things. Well, think about superheroes, right? Like, if we all had the powers of superheroes, how messed up of a world would this be? Because we can't even control our base emotions. Someone types something on a screen and you want to go kill them, and you want to be trusted with higher powers and abilities, and you want to have all the good things in life. How can you think that way? How dare you think that way when you can't even handle someone typing on the screen on a computer a million miles away? And that's the thing I think that people miss. They want all the good things, but you see it all the time. Lottery winners, right? They never had any financial training. They never had any financial um, acumen, responsibility of how to handle money. Then they get the lotto, and it's gone in a month or two. Why should they have been given that money? Why not someone else that is truly suffering, that knows the value of money, how to manage it, and they could do some good with that? So I think that's what people aren't paying attention to at all.
Yeah, there's a couple things that come to mind with what you're mentioning. Couple things. Um, what's the best leader, or the best king, or the best queen? What's the best kind of that leader to who could lead others? The one who really doesn't want it, or at least doesn't want it for greed and for power. They accept it, possibly
You should
begrudgingly.
be scared of having that power. You should be fearful in the sense that you will be afraid of how will you succumb to it? Will you do something wrong? Like, the more responsibility I've had, I've always felt that, okay, I need to do this right.
Well, you're acknowledging you are acknowledging that there is a shadow within you, just like it's within me and everyone else. It never leaves. The tale of two wolves, right? Which the old adage of, and it's a I think it's a Cherokee story. It's a beautiful story. Um, you are the one you feed, but the one that's not fed doesn't die. It's still always there, and that's the um, being mindful that that is always there is kind of what you're mentioning. It could be fear, I guess. It could be, it's trepidation to say I'll lead, but there's things I want to be mindful of, my own, or your own, someone's own shadow work, because if you ever get to a leadership position, there's a lot of responsibility on yourself to make sure you're mirroring to other people, because anyone in a leadership position, I would think, shouldn't be there for themselves. It's more of an honor. It's an honor to lead other people, and it's not one for the faint-hearted, and it's not for someone who isn't ready for it. And
Yeah.
if they're not ready, then just like you mentioned, greed or lust of power, or love for money for the sake of money, which is the root of all evil. The love for money is, it's a Bible verse. I don't recall which one. There's,
And that's one that people mess up. They say the what money is the root of all evil, and it's like no,
love
there's
of
not
money.
a thing. It's your love for the wrong things,
That's
basically.
right. Which is what it does say in the Bible too. I don't quote Bible verses that much, but
Yeah,
it's the love of money, not
yeah,
money itself.
yeah.
If money is a vehicle to help yourself and other people by extension, that's that's good.
It's a tool. It's just a tool.
Exactly. Yeah, like a hammer. It's
Don't fall
just
in love with a tool. You know.
no. Well, speaking of falling in love with tools, and we came right around to the second thing I was going to mention, med beds or
Yeah, yeah.
telepathic abilities or all these other things. I I have come to realize for myself, and I'd read a couple things, and it made a lot of sense to me. If that's technology or whatever it is, what if it is just a reminder of what we already are? What if we all can heal ourselves when we're ready to lead in that way, when we actually are ready to take on that power, knowing the shadow work that needs to be done behind the scenes, knowing the continuous shadow work that I think that's as everlasting as life is, not
Yeah.
just here. Um, if a med bed is to remind you that you are a light body within us, not our mortal being, but within us, our soul, and that all the all that we need is within us anyway, whether we have that or not. It doesn't mean those things might not help, but it's to help you remember that you can do things
Yeah.
within your.
It's we know our body regenerates cells, right? We also know we were in environments eating and breathing in and drinking things that were poison, right? And we still are not 100% free from all that, and a lot of us still participate in doing that. Like, we still eat things or do things that aren't the best for us, but no one's gonna be 100% perfect right now, right? But we don't need a med bed, and maybe that's just a tool for someone in power to have control, that, oh, these people got med beds and don't you want one too? All you got to do is do this, right? And aren't you compromising yourself there? Or all you got to have is $1 million, all you got to have is this and that, right? So I know we don't need them. Maybe people need them because they don't. Maybe we all need them now, because, or think we need them now because we're not doing the things that we are supposed to be doing, so that we won't need them, right? But the bottom line is, no one has a secret tool or anything that's going to change everything. And I think that's the scary part right now, that people are falling for all these things, that, oh, there's this person that's going to fix everything and they're fixing the world. And, oh, there's these technologies. And I used to think, oh, yeah, once all that stuff comes out. But then it's just the same system in a different wrapper,
Right.
and
It's
people aren't seeing that, and you will be ostracized fast because you have no home on the left or on the right. You only have a home in the light, and there's more and more coming to the light, but still, I think, a smaller home right now compared to the big groups that are out there, Christianity, Islam, whatever religion you want to pick, or hi. She's staring at me. She's like, yeah, you're keep going. But it's yeah, it's all within us. It's short, is the short answer, and we just have to figure out how to do it.
I love the phrase you coined. There's no left or right. It's just going towards the light. That's good. That's really good. Um, yeah, I mean, I think technology in general and med beds maybe specifically, I'm thinking more and more that I feel for me, you all can discern, if you want, could that not just be a reminder of what we already are capable of if we choose to? And there's maybe a straight line to that, which might be really long and really dark and really difficult. Or do you want a shortcut to it, which is temporary and really is to give you, well, let me put it this way. Belief or faith, I feel, is more difficult but more um, rewarding in silence. When you don't feel like you hear God, when you don't feel like you hear Source, and you believe anyway, and you have faith. And I want to share that just in general for anyone watching this. My faith and my resolve in Source, a higher power, God and internally for myself grows exponentially more when I don't have evidence. And I do not agree with anyone, respectfully speaking, that that's me kidding myself because I feel it. I mean, every day. Um,
Yeah.
especially being grateful for quote unquote bad things that happen to me. I'm grateful for it because I know there is a lesson there. And I
Yeah.
don't know it because I read it in a book or because I subscribe to a certain religion and
You
someone
feel it.
told me
I mean,
so.
when you get to the point of, for lack of a better
So,
word, I'll say enlightenment, and it's not like enlightenment is one level. There's levels of enlightenment, right? But when you start going up to levels of enlightenment, you start to realize that you did have the answers, and you doubted yourself many times, right? We all there's some guy, maybe it's Hunter S. Thompson or someone that said that man lives a life of quiet desperation. You, as a man, especially in society today, you're told you have to be this way or you're toxic, or women now have to be in power, and there's men that say that too, that we need a woman president, and you're beaten down all the time, especially today, and self-doubt. So you have to understand that ideas that you had may have been the right ones, but the only reason you didn't say them or explore them further was simply because you were worried about the world around you. And you have to get to the point of, and I think Gen X is good at this. Maybe it was a Gen Xer that coined that term. I don't know. Maybe it's way older. It probably is. But I think our generation really, kicked the door open to enlightenment in this era because we didn't want to hear the BS we were being fed, and we doubted a lot of it, and that now we're being proven right. And we knew all this as teenagers, and in our 20s and everything, and we knew it. And I was like, aha, we were right, and we just keep being more right as time goes on. I keep being more right as time goes on. It's not about being right, but it's just we were, damn it, like we saw these things, we felt these things, and a lot of the other people that still don't realize that they probably felt things and they were right too, but they just have not reached the level of enlightenment to realize that they were right about a lot of things that they doubted themselves on either. It's just, don't be mad at us because we knew we were right and we knew we'd be proven right. You were probably right in a lot of things too, but you're just suppressing yourself.
and there I feel like even more shadow work comes in. So I need to express my gratitude to all Gen Xers because by definition I'm not. I missed the cutoff by about
Yeah.
a year and a half. Um,
Mm.
um,
We all stand on the shoulders of giants,
you
basically.
Well, yes, yes, because I think a lot of I think everything is remembering who we are and remembering things, and us moving past the aha moment and feeling right, and like you said, I'm, I told you so. When you
You're not
move past,
surprised anymore. I mean,
no,
I know you're not surprised anymore, and I know you don't say "I told you so," and I don't either. But
right,
we did say it.
right. There's maybe we're all imperfect beings, so there's a little bit of celebration of even internally I knew I was right. And when you move past that, because I think that's shadow work there too, to just accept that it had to be this way and it has to be this way, and to just allow other people to come to that conclusion or not with their
Mm.
own
Yeah.
decision,
Yeah.
and realize within yourself that your faith has gotten you through everything. And I'm trying to think of maybe that's a better term or a different term than saying awakened or enlightened or whatever.
Yeah,
And I don't mean
it
faith.
really is remembering. And saying remembering lets the other person realize that they just haven't remembered yet, whether they want to even believe that they're going to remember it, and maybe they won't right now. Maybe they're so far away from it that they need another, I don't know, 1,000 years, 100 years, 20 years, 1 year, a day. Who knows how long, right? It's not for us to judge. I mean, we had our own paths too, right? We weren't always like this. We had to remember something. It's just some of us had more memory than others to start, right?
Well, think of the faith and the belief and the trust that you or I had as a child playing with our first toy, just as a silly example,
Yeah.
until it was taken away, or until we were told we need to go do chores or something else, and that's a damage if we choose to. Or we could choose to just have faith and believe, okay, I'm can't play with it right now. It'll come back, and if it doesn't, that's meant to be. That's hard for a child, but my point is, a child is an innocent, at least in this, however many lives they've had their old souls too.
Yeah.
But I think it's very interesting as a child, just recently born or recently into this world, that just has a faith and a belief that everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to be, because they don't know any different. And I mean, I'd frame it to say that's the right way for each of us to, or at least one way, not the right way, one way to reach to your inner child, to say that faith and that belief is something to have. You want to call it enlightenment, that's fine. But I think it's faithfulness and everything going the way that it is meant to be.
Yeah. Um, also as children, we thought adults had everything figured out.
The sun rises and sets on our parents, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
George.
Yeah. I mean, we thought they knew everything. And the weirdest thing is to, I guess, outgrow your parents, right? Which we're supposed to. And the world changes in their lifetime, and then there's things they're not connected to. So then you end up knowing more about the world than they do, which is the weirdest thing, because
It's hard for
I've
parents
always
too to
been,
let go of that, to say, but this is my
yeah,
child. I'm supposed to, even if I'm well into my 90s or whatever, I should always be providing for them. What do you mean they're taking care of me now? What? Yeah,
yeah. Also, I think some people maybe stop learning too, and you have to keep learning. When we're children, we play, right? And that's how we learn. We play with different things. We put things in our mouth. What's the texture? What's it taste like? Play with all kinds of toys, bugs, whatever. And you're learning, but then at some point they squash it out of you. They're like, well, you don't need to stop playing in the dirt, right? You're taught to not go and learn anymore, and then just be spoon fed all these things. And I think if you're a natural learner and a natural curious person, then you find out that what you learned last year was BS, and now you're moving on to the next thing, and you're remembering really what is true and what is not.
that's right.
But it's still bizarre. Like, I have a mom that is wanting to keep learning and keep experiencing and figuring things out, and I have a father who's just stopped. I don't know when, how many decades ago, and it's just so weird to just see that, and it's sad, and it isn't. I feel like that's just his path,
It is.
but
It is
um,
just this path. Yes.
and I'm fine with it. And it's like, well, it's not for me to judge. It's his path. He doesn't want to learn anything. He doesn't want to grow. Right? We all have to grow spiritually. We all have to keep moving on, or we won't get off this fun ride that people complain about so much.
Well, if that's his role to play in this, particular lifetime, I
Mhm.
mean, he may have had other roles in other
Yeah,
lifetimes,
yeah, and that's the
where
point.
all of
Like,
that happened. So, is it sequential, where it's, from this to this and ever higher? I don't know. Maybe
yeah,
it
I
is.
don't know.
Maybe it isn't.
Yeah,
Or maybe he rose so far, progressed so far, that now he's done the shadow work, where he can come back and be this and not lose sight of his soul, and be a spark, in a weird way, a spark
hmm
for you or someone else to
yeah.
be able to meet him. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm already starting to see that, because he's kind of ostracized himself. He's like turned on family and stuff, but in a way. But one of my brothers, who's had to do a lot of work, who always, I guess he knew a lot, but he didn't. I don't know how to say it, but he's got some work to do, right? And he's just like my father. And my mom went and talked to him and said, "Hey, this, this is what happened with your dad." And he's like, "Yeah, I knew," but he's like, "Well, maybe I need to talk to him, because I know, because I'm like that. I'm like him." And you can see that my brother's been growing too, but we've all got our own levels of things, right, that we got to deal with. And it's just funny to see how that's playing out. For me, I say everything's funny. It's funny because it's like, yeah, of course it's going to play out that way, right? Like, I'm not surprised anymore. And sometimes I am a little bit, but then it's like, oh yeah, of course. You look at things and you're like, of course, that's how it's going. Because at one point, a while back, I thought, well, I need to be the one that steps up and does things, and then I was like, no, I don't have to do anything. I'm gonna sit back and watch how all this plays out, and it's playing out much better than I would have planned it.
I
Like you
feel
have to let go.
I feel the exact same way. I've given examples over the last couple episodes about kids and like holding back and breaking a loop of like, okay, this kid does this, and then I interject and tell them all the ways that they're wrong or what to do different. And then if you step back and have love or at least tolerance and silence, all of a sudden it just miraculously, more quickly than if you forced it, it just happens more and more beautiful or in the way it was supposed to happen. What I'm not sure I can think of a better way of a teacher who wants to take a different method than to do the exact opposite. So over the top, the exact opposite, so that a child or someone else can learn from it and decide what not to do. You could have a teacher that says this is the way it's done and this is the way, or you could have someone that's just so hard in the paint, to use a basketball term, so hard in the paint, evil that people learn from that teaching. Is that not a teacher too? I mean, I would argue yes. I would argue
Yeah,
yes.
pay attention to the message, right? Not the messenger, not the angel, so to speak. I want to throw that in there because people think angels are something special, but they're just messengers. It's just another word for messenger. But yeah, don't pay attention to the angels. Pay attention to what the message is.
Right. Don't fall in love with the light and the robes and the
Yeah,
angelic being that it
because
is.
like you said, you may get a good message from someone evil, right? Like we can all learn something from people that we think are evil or bad or the worst of the worst. And if you analyze it, pay attention, you can find something that is worth. Not that they did something good, but you can pull something out of it that is a teachable moment to better yourself, better others.
Think of the love and the faith that you're conveying to that other person for not trying to change them and work on it internally for yourself for what that means. That's not selfish. It's the
Yeah,
opposite of selfish.
yeah, and you see this when people, I didn't have children, but when people raise children, there's the
You did
mother
in
that,
previous lives, I'm
well,
sure.
yeah, that's true. That's right. You told me that. But yeah, so and that that's always weird, right? And I got to say this now because it never made sense to me how I had so much knowledge about raising children and what's right or wrong. But people say, well, you don't have kids, you can't say anything about it, right? And now it makes sense. No, it makes perfect sense why I have this knowledge. But um, the mother that as soon as the kid falls and hits themselves, they run over and they're babying them and everything, and the kid's just crying more and more, versus the one that the kid just falls, they hurt themselves, they cry for a second, no one comes, and they just get up and start playing again. Which method is better? Which method is going to have a better mentally healthy child? I mean, the mother that's running to the kid that just fell and hurt thinks they're doing the right thing, but no, they're feeding their own
Yeah.
insecurities, and their own shadow is what they're feeding. They're not doing anything for the child in that moment. Now, if the kid's bleeding and broken arm, that's different. But kids fall all the time. I fell many times, and like you gotta let the kid bounce back up on their
I
own, right?
Are you still there, George? Looks like maybe he cut out. I got a story to come back to on kids. I'll give two examples. We'll give George a second. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Lost
Okay.
internet connection, but basically, what I was saying was just that you gotta let the kids bounce back up on their own. You can't
Yeah.
baby everything away, and then that's what you're talking about is interference, right?
Yep.
But who loves the kid more? Well, maybe it's just an ignorance thing, right? Maybe you think you're doing the kid a favor. Um, Sometimes it comes back to the. I don't know where I came up with this "let go, live, and love" crap, but "let go" keeps popping up a lot right now because people are holding on to too much crap.
Well, it's an ego thing to overcompensate if a child gets hurt. So I'll give you two examples. I know we have to wrap up soon, but um, my kid was playing at a playground years and years ago, and he fell, and the way he stiffened his arm, I could tell he probably did something to his arm. And he did. He fractured it. It wasn't major. Another time he was trying to keep up with, and he was young at this point, 4 or 5 years old. And he was trying to keep up with all the big kids trying to run. And he ran. And the good thing is, what broke his fall was his lip. He hit right here. And all the other parents like went running over and the other kids. And I just walked over as if I was this callous, uncaring father. I wasn't doing it to be uncaring. He was alive. There wasn't like imminent danger. Like, and I just walked over to him because I recognized that me running over I wasn't gonna get there any faster. No medical attention was gonna happen. I walked over calmly, briskly, but calmly, and said, this is pretty bad. And no child wants to hear that. And parents out there might be like, how dare you say, well, you can feel obviously however you want to. But I said, this is pretty bad. We're going to need you to go to the hospital. I'm like, you're going to be okay. You're alive, but like, we're going to have some things happen. He had to have his lip glued and stuff like that. You can't even tell now. It's totally gone. It's not that I was right and other people were wrong. It's just that I didn't need to feel comforted in that moment. What happened to him happened, and I'm going to get to him as quickly as I can, safely for myself.
Yeah.
And
yeah, don't trip and fall trying to go and save him.
right. I mean, even the same thing, to use a different thing, like, none of us want to run over a squirrel or a rabbit or hit a deer on, driving. But also, do you really want to counter steer so much that you end up in the ditch or, God forbid, hit someone else trying to save this life? I'm not saying that all life isn't precious.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But think of what your reaction to that. What is the mirror going to reflect if you take some type of chaotic turn?
Yeah, is your life going to be better trying to save the squirrel? And, for the record, I avoid everything that I can. I don't run over anything I don't have to run over. And usually where I drive, it's, you're not going to crash into anybody else. But that's the point, right? Like, where's the timeline going to go for you in each decision? Basically, I think what you're trying to say really is don't act out of reaction, think of what you're doing. And then, yes, if avoiding the squirrel is the safest course of action for everybody, including the squirrel, then by all means do it. But take a second, to process what needs to happen.
That's right. You're exactly right. Yeah. Brother, take us home. What else do you want to say?
I think that's it. What you said is very, very important today because everyone's reacting.
Yeah. So you think this conversation is good enough to put out on the?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's valuable. Mm-hmm.
I think so too. Shadow work and faith. That's what we'll call it. There could be so many other words we could use for it, but
and trust in yourself and remembering, like, don't suppress yourself anymore. Be your authentic self.
That's right. That's right. What's the worst that could happen? It's not going to be that bad. And it could be
it's not.
Exponentially more beautiful than we can ever imagine.
Yeah, take the chance.
Brother, as always, I am very grateful for you. Love you, brother. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Love you too, brother. Thank you.
Have a good day. See you.